Welcome to Nonsense Season 3, Episode 63, our big story and our second show of the week, our last show before the Thanksgiving break. I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm Cutable.
This time we're looking at card sharks and USB sticks, cheating at cards in the modern age. That's up next.
Take notes.
Real quick, let me just say, since we're gone next week, we're going to let this particular conversation go as long as we want it to go. So feel free to give us the details. I'm not running a clock on this.
Oh, that's your first mistake. We're going to run out of battery and tape.
So we're going to record right through Thanksgiving, aren't we?
Which is just going to be a live stream. It's just going to be one long Twitch live stream until the L-tryptophan kicks in. I apologize in advance. I didn't know it was card sharks with USB sticks. I thought it was card sharks with beef sticks. So I was expecting a snack.
The TV show.
It's the TV show, though, isn't it? Where like you say a number and I have to guess higher or lower. Is that the plan?
Yeah. The world's most complicated game show.
It is terrible. It is probably the only show that I think was easier than Press Your Luck, where all you had to do was mash a button. Sure. This was like 9. You're like, higher, Bob. Like what? How? No.
Listen, I'm excited about this show, not because I gamble. I have zero interest in playing cards or gambling or any of that sort of stuff, but I was a huge fan of magicians who did fantastic card magic.
What happened? What did the magicians do to you? How come you are no longer a fan?
Well, many of them have passed away.
You can still be fans of their work.
I'm fans of their work and what remains of their work, yes.
Sure.
Di Vernon, Charlie Miller, Ricky Jay, absolutely sensational. There's a guy named Richard Turner who does some of the most amazing card mechanics I've ever seen. He literally can, as he's shuffling and things, keep complete control of where everything is in the deck. As he like says, pick a number from 1 to 10, and you say 14, and he deal, and card 14 is the ace of spades. Picks them up, shuffles them randomly. What would you like it to be?
Sure.
Card number 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And there's and he's not like bottom dealing or anything like that. He has manipulated the entire. It's
amazing.
It's absolutely mind blowing. And then
wait, hold on. That's Richard Turner, right?
Richard Turner. There's a great documentary about him called Dealt. And then about 30 minutes into the movie, they reveal the fact. I'm going to give this away because it's not a new movie. They reveal the fact that Richard Turner is legally blind.
Oh wow. Really?
Yeah.
He doesn't have no eyes?
So he's doing all of,
Whoa.
He is doing all of this without being able to see.
Well, that makes me not want to use my joke saying he's the younger, lesser successful brother of Ted.
Ted Turner?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like I don't need to kick the blind guy. I feel like I'm going to go ahead and skip that step before Thanksgiving.
Excellent plan. Cards, cons, cheats, and crossroaders. How to cheat at cards in 2025. Let's go.
I can barely shuffle, and I have my eyes.
Yeah, it's impressive. You got to see this movie.
It's amazing. Dealt. All right.
Yeah.
Check it out. That's the show, everybody.
We're already at the recommendation part now. Push this button quick.
Do not pass go. Press this one. Okay, right here. I am excited to talk about cheating at cards.
Of course you are, because you actually love playing cards.
You
love gambling
cards.
And that sort of. It's not. It's not my game. No. It's not my thing. It doesn't.
I don't like
do
gambling. I like winning.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into a game where I have a disadvantage. To be clear here, I want to know how other people cheat so that I can be aware of it. I don't actually want to cheat. I want to win the game fair and square. It is not fun to win when cheating. So I want to just know how to cheat so that I know what to look for. That's why I'm interested in cheating.
I much prefer games like Bridge, where the entire card deck has been dealt out.
Sure.
You can sort of go, well, I know I have these cards, and therefore you don't have these cards.
Sure.
And my partner is playing with his cards face up, so I know what we have. Now I know it's either in your hand or in your hand.
Yeah.
That kind of thing is much more interesting to me. The actual 2 cards, blackjack or whatever cards.
I don't know Bridge, but I'm assuming I will be 70 one day, and then I will get to know
You'll love it. You'll absolutely love it. Yeah.
I can't wait.
It
I'm looking
sucks you
forward
in.
to Bridge and watching Price is Right reruns.
What are some standard ways you see people eking out an advantage in card games?
Oh, boy. There's a lot. I mean, you've got folks that just take sort of the mathy, nerdy route, right? The game theory optimization where they're just like a calculator in their head. And I think that's fun, but man, it becomes kind of rote after a while. Like once you know every hand and what to play in blackjack, now you can just be a drunken monkey and it's not hard. But most of those...
Go back to the other side. The house has a slight advantage just by the way they set up the game.
Oh, of course.
I mean, it's literally can be half a percentage point or even a full percentage point. Yeah. And that's all they need. Now they play hundreds of games and they just eventually rake in the money.
It's like when you go to Vegas and there'll be like an advertisement for slot machines and they're like 99% payout. And I'm like, that's terrible. Like,
it's pretty clear how that works.
I don't understand. People are like, well, you just got to play longer. And I'm like, No.
That's
the opposite of what you want to do. So I see people do that, certainly. Game like poker, right? There is no real house advantage per se. You're all playing the same hand.
Oh, there is a house advantage. You have to tip the dealer.
Well, there could be a rake, or they could have, well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to what
that's a huge advantage.
Sure. And then there's just understanding the math, right? So understanding the probability behind it. There is an advantage to that. It's not illegal. There's nothing cheating about it.
Sure.
But just knowing odds and percentages. And I have some friends that are very good at this at craps. I've never bothered. I don't enjoy throwing dice. I enjoy being there when people are throwing dice. I enjoy the energy, but just knowing the odds and being like, this isn't going to be the outcome of dice. This is not.
I know, who cares? I enjoy watching it in movies when there's some high stake thing on the line and it goes the way you want it to go.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
then it's fun.
Of course. I mean, I think that's been part of the allure of 20 years or so that poker has gotten popular on television.
Yeah.
Is really for that, right? You can see these sort of situations and figure out what they're going to do.
These high stakes situations.
Totally.
In some games, can't you just play the people? People have tells. People have different gestures and things. You can sort of see what's going on with them emotionally, maybe not obviously, but consistencies.
Poker, I mean, that's not going to work in blackjack. I don't think you're going to see the tell on the dealer. In theory, the dealer shouldn't even know what their hole card is.
Right, of course,
in theory. Although if they did, please let me know what your tell is. That would be lovely. I don't know if that's an option or not. I don't know how good I am at reading tells. Some folks have really obvious tells, but I don't. Some people are very good at picking this up. Like, oh, their left eye twitches twice when they have an.
Well, I see, like in the World Series of Poker, I see an enormous amount of players who play with sunglasses on, so you can't see what their eyes are doing.
I had this idea: if I ever made a World Series event and went to a World Series event, I would just bring like a brown paper bag and just cut holes in it. Just go for full obfuscation. Just cut holes in
everything
it in the mouth.
But your eyes.
Exactly. Like that's all I actually want you to see. I think it's ridiculous guys, put on sunglasses and hoods and whatnot, but sure, if it helps minimize.
What do the hoods do? I don't know what the hoods do.
I don't know. They get rid of all the facial tics when your ear twitches. I have no idea. I mean, you fidget with things with your fingers and whatnot. I mean, I have one tell that I know of that I can't control, but it doesn't come out when I'm playing poker.
Yeah.
It only comes out in other situations. The only one I know of, I'm like, I catch myself not being able to control it. Otherwise, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure I got a bunch.
I have one when I get dealt a crappy card and I just go, and a lot of times they can tell what that means.
Yeah, sure. It's weird. It's weird how they know.
Yeah.
They've cracked your code.
Yeah.
What I enjoy more about playing the people, is being able to sort of manipulate and misdirect the people. That's fun to me, right? And I don't consider that cheating at all.
How do you do that? What does that do?
How you play, like how you play your cards, maybe trying to build on some fake tell or acting one way when you have a set of cards and then acting that same way when you have a different set of cards.
Oh, I see.
I like trying to do that. It throws folks off, especially when you're if you're in a tournament style game where I shouldn't give away all of my secrets here.
Too late.
Like when you're in a tournament style game and your blind rate's going to increase over time.
Yeah.
Screw around when the blinds are lower. That's your time to sort of screw about. And then there's some things that I do that are very consistent and you can build off that. So that's the more fun part to me. Again, not cheating. This is just ways you can sort of find the advantage in games.
And sometimes you'll see people who bend the rules to their advantage.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I like to try to partake in some of that. But I think, first of all, just,
you do?
Just a little. I mean, first of all, you got to know the rules, right? And every now and again, I'll find myself in a situation where someone clearly doesn't know the rules. And it's like, no, man, this would have slid had you not had the video replay. But I'm the video replay guy here. Like, I'm 100% sure I'm right about that. I've been wrong on one or two occasions, but you learn. But for the most part, knowing the rules, I think, is the most important thing. It does rub people the wrong way. And this is what drives me crazy about, there's like this whole genre of home games where the dealer picks the game to play.
Sure.
I hate those because I never know the rules. They're like, oh, no, you were dealt the second 3, therefore you can't bluff. I'm like, I don't know the rules. I just don't want to play.
You got to state what the rules are going to be ahead of time. We're playing this game and jokers are this. You have to put all that up front.
Yeah. But usually they'll be like, everybody here knows upside down nighttime baseball, right? And I'm like, no. And then they'll like explain 3 of the 12 bullets. I don't know the other 9 bullets. And then anyway, the ones that are a little more devious, I mean, knowing the rules is just knowing the rules, right? There's nothing wrong about that. The ones that are more devious are when you're like picking the people you want to play with, right? You're going to a poker room and you're picking the table you want to sit at because you're like, well, those folks all look like noobs, so I'm going to sit there.
They look like tourists.
Yeah. And I mean, and in theory, you can pick your position in some of those games too, where you want to sit. A lot of those games have rules around that. If you're playing in a house game, like if you're playing in like a little local tournament or something, you should be drawing cards for it. If you're not drawing cards for it, something's wrong. You should have some, automated process. It's a little harder to quote, sit in the good seat, if you will.
I'm not a poker player by any stretch of the imagination. It doesn't even interest me, but I have been told you have an advantage if you can play with a level head.
Oh, yeah.
If you can stay unemotional.
Totally.
I did play one time at a school poker game where I didn't look at the cards, never looked at the cards that were dealt to me. Played blind the whole time. So sometimes I'd be bluffing. Of course, I wouldn't know I was bluffing, and the other person would have nothing
clue.
to read off of me. I made it to the last 3 players.
I was going to say.
Before I was knocked out.
And you won 6 years straight. Yeah.
No, I was knocked out, but I made it really high.
You are the kind of person that no one ever wants to play against because it's impossible to know what you have when you don't know what you have. Yeah.
Right. I can't tell you how this angered people. The upsetness with me not looking at my cards. Yeah.
Yes. I will every now and again play a hand blind, and just doing one of those will drive people bananas.
Sure.
Because they don't know what to do.
Right. Sure.
There's another move you can do that a lot of times gets me yelled at, but you can straddle, which is basically where you take the big blind over if you're sitting ahead of the big blind. And people hate it when you do that. And you're still going to look at your cards. You just don't look at your cards pre-flop. Drives people bananas.
Sure.
I can only, I have a friend that I've played poker with who is a listener to this show. I will leave them nameless. Who looks at their cards and I'm pretty sure has no idea what's on them. And it's impossible to play that person because they are playing in such a way that they don't know what they have or what's coming. And you're just you are just playing a clean sheet of paper every time. And you never know. And every now and again you'll be like, you went all in on like ace high. And then other times you'll be like, you called, but you have a straight flush. Like you never know.
Of course, because how would they know? How would they know? Sure.
So, but I think the lesson to be learned there is if you have endurance, if you have some focus, if you are not emotional.
I was going to say, if you are actually playing and looking at your cards and seriously like an actual card player, you want to play it like it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes, marathon, not a sprint, exactly. You don't want to be emotional. We call that, especially when someone's steaming, right? They lose a hand and now they got to come back in. Like you want to catch that person because
make bad decisions.
Typically they're going to come in and make terrible decisions. Yeah. So, and again, you can also, if you can play duration, right? If you have that endurance, if you have that sort of marathon mindset, I don't think I've ever done this, but I've seen people that will, they act like they're tired. And I'm like, really? Like I see you acting all tired. And they're like, I'm making mistakes. It's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. So yeah, it's emotional warfare basically.
I get about 2 hands in and I actually am tired because it just bores me to tears.
You're not even looking at your cards though. What are you tired about?
How do I get out of this? How can I get away from this?
I'll say 2 things here. 1, I think you'd be a very good poker player. 2, I really think if you don't play the cards, but you play the people, it gets a lot more fun. I do think you would enjoy that.
Yeah.
I don't want to play you in poker. That's for sure.
Well, it was like a school fundraiser thing. I couldn't go home. I couldn't leave. That was the problem.
Home.
And if I could have found
Lauer door, why couldn't you go home?
If I could have found a way to leave, I would have done it.
Push the button. Let me out.
So I was stuck, and so I just was like, all right, I'm playing until I get knocked out, and I'm not looking. I can
only imagine. Do any of those people in that room still talk to you? Because they must have been so grumpy with you.
Well, one of them was my wife, who actually plays poker, who actually understands poker. She was as annoyed as anyone else there.
She had to be more annoyed. She had to be the most annoyed of anyone there.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. No, that's you have successfully found a way to troll people doing the least amount of work. That's you should get a star.
All right. So there's other ways. Bankroll management.
Well, yeah, of course. If you just that's patience. That's endurance. Just keep your stack.
Yeah.
And think about the long haul. That's complicated though, because sometimes you wanna go in more early to try to get some of what we'll call the weaker links on the chain. So it's hard.
The low hanging fruit.
Exactly. I'm not gonna say I'm good at bankroll management, especially in tournaments where they have a thing called I think it's a French word called rebuys, and that's where I get into trouble because again I'm a rule guy. So tell me the rules, and if the rules are typically in some games like okay, no more rebuys after 10:30.
Well, sure,
I will buy right up until 10:29 p.m. because why not? I'm here for fun, and I'll have guys try to cut me off and be like, you've already bought in 5 times, and I'm like, so we're going for 6. Like, why not? Let's just keep going.
There's no rule against buying more than 5 times, and you can buy all the way till 10:30.
For my obsessive compulsiveness is what they're doing. They're trying to save me from myself, and as it turns out, nobody can.
No, but you have deep pockets, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, why not? Like let's empty them out here.
But you're also a notorious card counter, if I remember correctly.
No, you're thinking of some other JC.
I've been with you in Las Vegas. I have memories of this.
Oh boy. Let's just say theoretically, there's a Wikipedia page that you could read about counting cards. I've read it, but I mean, I wouldn't know anything about the face.
You've memorized it. Cards. You've committed all the footnotes to memory.
Counting cards is one of the most fascinating things to me. Not because it's hard or magical, because damn near everyone thinks it's illegal. And they think if you do it, you're going to get thrown in jail.
Tell me how that can be illegal. I mean, if you're just sitting there counting cards in your head, how would anybody know? They can't read your thoughts.
I don't know. But people go like, oh, if you count cards, you're going to go to prison. I'm like, no,
really?
You're not. Counting cards in your head. Now, to be clear here, if you count cards with a mechanical device, at least in Las Vegas, that is illegal.
Sure.
That is a crime. However, doing it in your head is not a crime. What it does is give you an understanding, a knowledge, again, in theory, I've read this in the past, of the proportion of cards that are left in the shoe, in the deck.
What's coming up, yeah.
Yeah, and then depending on what's left in the deck, you may be in a favorable position, theoretically, to play more aggressively. They call that playing the count. If you play the count and you raise your bet, you have a more likely chance of winning.
Sure.
So this is something that is very easy to do. It's not hard. You can train anybody to do it. I mean, once you kind of see how to do it, theoretically, a monkey can do it. The catch is you got to figure out how to play the count. If you can't actually play it, then it doesn't matter. It's no good, right? If you can't adjust your betting strategy.
Yeah.
And as soon as you adjust your betting strategy a couple times, typically the house frowns upon this because you've shifted their advantage. So typically the house's advantage is anywhere from 0.5% to 1%. It depends on how crappy the rules are at that particular blackjack game. Now in Vegas, man, it's gross. It's hard to find a 3-2 table anymore. Now it's all 6-5. They hit on soft 17. All these things take away little bits of your advantage.
So your advantages are going to be
closer to 1%. Yeah, closer to 1%. If you run a reasonable betting strategy with a count, you can flip that around and get somewhere between a 1% to 2% advantage in your favor.
No, you can. I can't.
Yeah,
because it's an 8-deck shoe, and I'm not sitting there that long. I'm going to go to the buffet, or I'm going to go upstairs to the hotel and take a nap.
Why not do both?
I am not sitting around playing cards.
I can tell you again,
shoe.
Theoretically, if you sit with enough money, they'll bring the buffet to you. They don't care. They want you to stay there. So I'm just saying, I've had many a meal at a table before, theoretically. So you flip this advantage around. Here's the catch. Once you play this for a while and you've adequately annoyed them that you're going to take a bunch of their money, they're going to ask you to leave. And they're not really asking you to leave. They're telling you to leave. They'll pay you out. They're not gonna not pay you out. The days of the mob breaking your knees in Vegas
are almost over.
Almost over. They are 30 years away from being over. They're gonna pay you, and they're gonna tell you not to come back. And if you come back, it's trespassing, and that, as it turns out, is illegal. Card counting, not illegal. Trespassing, illegal. So you don't want that. You want the casinos to still like you. So that's the way they do this. The best place to read about this, at least the best thing I've ever read about this, was the 2003 book Bringing Down the House, which is fantastic. It's a great read.
The MIT guys who count the cards.
So those guys, it wasn't the card counting that was really exciting to me about that book, because again, counting cards is relatively easy. It's the way they communicated the count, and they had these sort of elaborate characters that they created, and then they put a bunch of plants at the tables that would count cards, and then you'd be the Scrooge McDuck that would roll up with all the money. You're the guy who was the coffee importer from Costa Rica or whatever. You had some backstory, and you'd roll up with a bunch of money, but you didn't have to sit there to establish the count. They would tell the count to you, and it's a really fun story. It's written as nonfiction. My understanding is he took a little bit of embellishment in spots there, but it is rooted in a very true to life story. And then ultimately, all of those guys got banned. They took millions of dollars out of casinos, and then ultimately all got banned. And now, especially with facial rec technology, good luck.
Oh, facial rec is so good. It's over. It used to be you could go to a different casino, and they wouldn't necessarily have the image of your face.
Consulting companies now work across all of them. But share them all. So again, to be clear, this was lots and lots of collusion. None of that was illegal.
Yeah.
None of it was illegal. It was all legal.
None of this is what we wanted to talk about on this episode.
No.
Today's episode is not about any of this. Today we were going to talk about how to grow roses.
Yes. Something I also hate.
Yeah. Today we're going to talk about ways to actually cheat. Illegal things that are not in the shades of gray, but are in the actual, no doubt, cheatery category.
I'm going to be clear, no jokes here. I've never actually cheated at cards. I have heard stories. I don't think I've ever been in a room where I've caught somebody legitimately cheating. I've caught people do things that I think are questionable, but not like the stuff that's going to get your knees broken or your fingers cut off. Like not that kind of cheatery, but there is stuff that I think goes into that bucket, right? The most obvious one to me is the sleight-of-hand stuff, like all the card magician things.
I don't know how Ricky Jay would ever be allowed to go into a casino and literally even touch a card. I know he's just touching the 2 blackjack cards that he's been dealt, but the minute you let him touch a card, it seems like, you're in trouble already.
So when you get face down single deck blackjack, which is the only place in Vegas that I know you're allowed to touch cards, I actually greatly dislike it. I don't even want to touch the cards. There's no advantage to you in touching the cards. The reason they do it is it makes it a little harder to count.
Yeah.
But I don't want to touch them. There's too much room for somebody to be like, you're doing something terrible. And I'm like, I just have a twitch. Like leave me alone.
Sure.
But when you get into poker, you are touching the cards, right? You have to touch the cards.
There's no way around it.
I'm not even thinking so much about the player, right? Like the example you just gave, the player playing the cards. I'm thinking more about the dealers. And especially if you're in a home game where everybody deals, or if you've got dealers that are called in, those folks, man, they can do things that you can be staring at from 3 feet away and not see, right? Second dealing where you're pulling the card that's below the top card, or bottom dealing off the bottom, doing false shuffles and false cuts to preserve the order of the deck, or just palming cards. Like all of this stuff they do so masterfully that you'll just never catch it.
I will confess to having done some of those moves in my lifetime, but only as a sort of a magic trick and only in a card game. We used to play Uno when my son was very young.
Yeah.
And I would bottom deal him all the wild cards so that he could change the suit.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he would pick up his cards at 6 years old and he would be shocked and surprised that he had a handful of wild cards. There's no way he can lose the game.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, look, I think when you're dealing with things like that, and of course, card tricks, magic tricks, for sure, that makes sense. But I'd argue even worse than sleight of hand are folks that mark cards.
Oh, yeah, sure.
That is bananas to me. And I've read a little bit about this. Again, certainly I've never done it, but they have the quote unquote tech they have around this where they'll put like a little tiny micro scratch, or they'll use some invisible ink that they can rub on the card that will, they can see with their special glasses or whatever. That stuff is mind-boggling.
You're getting into the Chauncey Billups story that was in the news.
Yeah.
NBA players who were involved in card games where they were manipulating the odds in their favor, and they were looking at marked cards so they knew what the mark had.
Yes. Yeah. And they had other ways they were cheating too, which is even more.
We'll come to that. We'll come to that.
Me. Yeah, for sure.
Palming, bottom dealing, middle dealing. Effectively, these are card trick things magicians do all the time.
Yep.
Similarly, cold decking or switching deck, that thing where you actually switch the entire deck. You swap out the entire deck with one that's stacked.
Incredible.
The way...
Yeah, 52 card sleight of hand.
Yeah. Where you swap the deck for one that's stacked the way you want it to be. And then there's also a whole other class where you have multiple people in on the cheating.
Yeah. It's a whole new ball game.
Then, the gloves are off and you can really go to the races with some that's what was happening with the NBA cheating scandal. More than one of the people in the room were in on the cheat,
including the house, right? Which makes it even harder. I mean, once you get the house involved, right, and the dealer is involved, sort of think of the dealer and the house synonymously, then it gets really hard to know what's going on, right? And that could be like they're stacking the deck. They might need to swap out the deck like you were talking about in cold decking. They can just stack the deck and have the deck in some order so a certain player is known to win, or like I said, dealing off the bottom. Again, the dealer could be doing that. You don't know.
Sure.
Showing cards, like flashing cards to people that they want to have a better chance of winning, or moving chips or pots around in such a way that it's favoring one person or another, or even just being pushed to one person or another. I mean, it's terrible, right? Those are all things that make me. And another one that I see every now and again is communication. Right? You're tugging on your earlobe, like you said earlier. This means I have so-and-so or whatever. Or
I'm holding 2 chips in my hand or 1 chip in my hand. If I'm holding 1, you got the winning hand. If I'm holding 2, you don't.
Even just talking in any other language at the table. The line from Rounders is no Sputnik at the table. And I say that all the time.
Yeah.
Like we should all be on the same page. No communicating information that all players have equal access to. That really pisses people off when I say that.
Well, that's when we talk about the actual shuffling machine that casinos use.
Yeah.
That should be on the table where everyone
100%.
Can see it, and it should be encased in glass so we can all see exactly what we're dealing with.
I mean, this is the argument I've made about those machines for years. If you were forget about machines, human dealers. If human dealers took the cards and went into a back room and shuffled them and then came back, that would not be okay.
And the machine's not better than
Nobody would be okay with that. No, it's arguably worse.
Yeah.
That's what the machine is doing.
So tell me some more mechanical devices, other ways that you can have table-based cheats.
Oh, man, you could have, they call them, I think, holdout devices, like where you've got a way to sneak a card into your hand from either like below the table or from up your sleeve. There are these things called, I think they call them gaffed tables, where you'll have like certain reflective surfaces or mirrors, like things that allow one player in a certain seat to have an advantage. There are dealing shoes, the shoes that they put the whole, the multiple decks in. This is like especially on blackjack.
8 decks of cards in.
Yeah. And you can pull a card out from a place that's not in the shoe, like underneath the shoe sort of thing.
Okay.
Stuff that is nuts. Like, and all of these things, these aren't like assumed to exist. These all exist. These are all ways people have cheated at cards in various games.
Well, that's the dealer, because the dealer's the only one touching the shoe. So obviously he's
once the dealer's in on it. Good luck.
Either working against the casino or working for the house.
Yeah.
You're in trouble either way.
Yeah. Typically, I'm going to assume the dealer's always working for the house because they are.
Well, no, not necessarily. They might have a friend.
Not necessarily.
They might have a friend who comes in and they want that friend to be able to win, and so they deal from underneath the shoe. That's totally possible. Okay, those all sound like pretty low-tech things, but there are more modern, high-tech ways that you can cheat.
Well, modern problems require modern solutions. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, there is no AI cheat for poker that's been exposed yet.
Stand by.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure there's a startup that's raised $30 million from Andreessen Horowitz that's working on this problem right now. We have seen smartphone apps that can read marked cards, which is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Of course, you have communication devices, whether it's micro, earpieces that nobody can see, so it doesn't just look like there's an AirPod hanging out of your ear, or the haptics on phones and smartwatches.
The buzzing, the little buzzing, the vibrating.
Yeah. I mean, these have been found in the wild, right? There have been players that have been using like observation from afar, and they've communicated the card holdings of other folks. And then it's not like you're looking at your watch and it's showing you that your neighbor has ace of hearts. They're communicating it via haptics. And I find that absolutely mind-bending that they can do this.
Give me one vibration if I'm going to win. Give me two vibrations.
Yeah, right? Yeah, SOS for the win. But I think before we get too deep into the technology behind some of the most recent approaches on cheating, the one that you and I really want to talk about, I think we first need to talk about your good old standard 52-card French suited deck.
Yeah.
Right? So that's like, this is the deck that when you say deck of cards, we're talking about a 52-card deck that has 13 ranks. So
4 suits.
Yep, 4 suits. Like when I say deck of cards, I think that's what everyone sort of universally, internationally knows. How many ways are there to configure that deck?
How many different orders can you put it in?
So if I shuffle the deck, how many ways total?
I think there's 7.
There's 7 or 8. Depends on how good of a shuffler you are.
And or 52 factorial.
So 52 factorial is the right answer. So 52 factorial means the number 52 multiplied by every number less than it.
Yeah.
Except 0 or greater than 0.
52 times 51 times 50 times 49.
So that is a giant number. The problem is it's very hard for us as humans, even me as a math guy, self-proclaimed math guy, to really know how big 52 factorial is.
It's virtually infinite. I can just tell you now.
That is
for all intent and purposes, it's infinite.
Okay, I'm going to say a lot more words here, but really all you need to know is what Jeff just said. You should think of 52 factorial as infinite because it effectively
ways that snowflakes can be identical. Yes. That's how unlikely.
So let me break this down. Just to put this in some form of perspective that maybe us as mere humans can understand. 52 factorial is the number 8 followed by 67 zeros.
Yeah.
8 by 67 zeros. The only number that I know of that we would communicate that is larger than that is a googol. And a googol is a 1 followed by 100 zeros.
Yeah, sure.
So this is an 8 followed by 67 zeros. For perspective, that is more than all the atoms on Earth.
All of the people named Adam?
All of the people named Adam with either spelling on Earth. No, all of the atoms on Earth. And I don't just mean on the surface of Earth. I mean in Earth. All... that number is bigger than all of the atoms in and on Earth. More so, that number is bigger than all of the atoms in the Milky Way, which is still a massive number. But that doesn't really tell me how big it is. It tells me it's really big, but it doesn't tell me how big it is. So follow me for a minute here. I think you're going to love this.
Okay.
Let's just say we were to set a clock to that number of seconds.
Okay.
8 times 10 to the 67th. So an 8 followed by 67 zeros.
Yes.
We're going to put the number of seconds on a clock. And now you and I are going to go to the equator.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. We should actually do that.
We're going to get to the equator, you and I together. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to wait 1 billion years.
Oh, no.
Yes.
First thing we're going to do is we're going to order the tacos.
Okay, we can order the tacos. And then we wait 1 billion years. Okay, 25% the age of the Earth. And then we take one step.
Yeah.
After that, we're going to wait 1 billion years and take another step.
Yeah. This is the worst dance I've ever been to.
Yes. Well, it's about to get worse. We're going to do this all the way around the Earth.
Okay.
So roughly speaking, that is going to be about 57 million steps. In between every step, we're going to wait 1 billion years.
Okay.
Now, when we get back to our starting point, when we get all the way back, we're going to take 1 drop of water out of the Pacific Ocean and we're going to set it aside.
Okay.
And then we're going to repeat the process of waiting 1 billion years in between steps to go all the way around the planet.
To get another drop of water.
Yeah. And we're going to keep doing that until the Pacific Ocean is empty.
Yeah.
Now, once that's all done, so we've done this trip. We go around, 1 drop of water. Once that's all done, we're going to take a piece of paper and we're going to set it on the ground next to us. And then we're going to do it all again. We're going to wait 1 billion years between each step. When we come all the way around after 1 billion years between each step, we're going to take a drop of water. We're going to do this and then we're going to put a second sheet of paper on.
Okay.
And we're going to keep going. And we're going to keep going until that stack of paper reaches the sun.
Okay.
1 billion years between each step, all the way to take out 1 drop of water.
You know the top part's going to burn.
Very resistant paper.
Okay.
We're going to keep doing this until we stack papers all the way to reach the sun. And now after this is all done, we're going to look at the clock. That clock, when we started, it had 8.07 times 10 to the 67th number of seconds on it. You know what it's going to read now?
No.
8.06 times 10 to the 67 number of seconds.
Yeah. That's about how long it feels like this story's been going
If we did this, listen, if we did this whole trip, right? The walking around the earth, the drop of water out of the ocean, the stacking the paper to the sun. If we did this whole thing 1,000 times, we would have only taken a third of the time off the clock. That's how big this number is. And this was the explanation I saw where I went, oh, that's how big it is. 1 billion years between steps. Just like it blows my mind.
This is the weirdest Survivor challenge I've ever heard of.
Got to start filming it now. And I'm sure Dick Wolf, someone's got rights on this thing, I'm sure. The reason I tell you all of this is because if you shuffle the deck in front of you reasonably, so typically we say you got to riff it about 7 times. You got to riffle the deck. Then you, with almost perfect certainty, have a deck of cards that has never been in that order anywhere in time and space in the universe. The basic math is around 99.99 repeating 55 times % unique. There's virtually no chance that you've ever had a deck in that order ever again on Earth. Again, roughly speaking, 7 riffle shuffles, the sort of the shuffle where you spread the cards out.
Standard shuffle.
Standard shuffle is enough to get you there. Now, I find that somewhat fascinating, that 7 gets you to a state where the odds are in your favor that no one has ever seen it before. That's pretty cool. If you want true sort of randomness of the overhead shuffle, you probably need to do it 10,000 times. That's why you use the riffle shuffle. But there's also something that I think is really fascinating about the decks and the fact that they're so unique. If you were to do a perfect Pharaoh shuffle, so a Pharaoh shuffle is where the deck is split exactly in half and perfectly interleaved. So, and then card from, A, card from B, card from A, card from B.
A zipper, a perfect zipper.
A perfect zipper. If you did that, and if you performed that perfect shuffle 8 times, where the top card always stayed on top, after 8 times, you would get a 52 card deck in its original order back, which I find fascinating.
Oh, that's really cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So if you do it 8 times perfectly, you end up exactly back where you started. I also found that fascinating. But that is not the coolest thing about these decks. What I find even more amazing, and this was from a guy named Ben Joffe. He explored this idea about 15 years ago. He published his results on his blog in 2009. He wondered if it was possible to stack a deck so that no matter which way it was cut, the winning hand was always dealt to the dealer. Right? This is in Texas Hold'em. And it turns out the answer is yes.
Sure.
So he wrote some scripts to figure this out. It was really fun. He found solutions all the way up to 7 players where you could have a deck, right? A deck that's in a certain order where no matter where you cut it, the same player always wins. Not just the dealer. It could be a player in any position. Always wins. I find that fascinating.
But you have to set up the deck in that specific order.
Yes, the deck has to be set up in that specific order. And typically in Hold'em, really in any card game, after you shuffle, you hand the deck to someone that's not the dealer to make the cut. And the point is that you could come up with cards in an order such that even with the cut, the dealer could still guarantee who wins.
If only you had like a shuffling machine that could put the cards in the order that you wanted them to be.
If
that were a thing.
And if only that machine had a USB port on it so that you could, tell it what to do.
Hack it. Sure. Connect a Raspberry Pi to it.
Yes, that is the whole premise of this show. And I'm so glad that Jeff brought us there. So enter the DeckMate shuffling machine.
Yes.
Now, the original DeckMate, the DeckMate wasn't called the DeckMate 1, but we can call it the DeckMate 1. It was designed in 2002 by Shuffle Entertainment. Very cute. Their name was SHFL Entertainment for casino poker rooms, right? To assist dealers in shuffling. That was the whole point of this thing.
Sure.
It took about 45 seconds to shuffle a deck of cards. They had basically a monopoly over shuffling machines, and they generally rented them out. They didn't even sell them.
I was going to say, you and I can't buy one of these. We can buy used ones. You can
find used ones now. I don't know how they end up in the used hands. I don't know how much that process has changed, but early on, they were the only ones that had it. It was $500 a month, and it came with service and all that fun stuff. In 2013, Shuffle Entertainment was acquired by Bally's. Later, Bally's agreed to be acquired by Scientific Games. Scientific Games is now called Light & Wonder. Light & Wonder released, or I should say, was back when it was still Shuffle, but they released the DeckMate 2 in around 2012. And
the successor, yes.
Yeah, the successor. So this is the one that you're mostly going to see these days is the DeckMate 2. It's their most
This
current.
is when you read about the NBA cheating scandal, this is the shuffler they're using.
Yes. From Light & Wonder's website, they say the DeckMate 2 features a number of enhancements, including a shuffle time of just 22 seconds. Sounds exciting. Onboard card recognition.
Right.
That's a little concerning.
Should be.
A built-in timer so that they can call the clock, which is a nice sort of ancillary thing. And the ability to sort cards back to a suited deck.
Sure.
So the onboard card recognition and the sort back to a suited deck concerns me, right? Those aren't necessarily
should be
things,
troubling for anyone paying attention.
Yeah, you would want. That sounds not great to me. These things were deployed everywhere. I mean, I saw these DeckMates everywhere.
It's the default shuffler of gambling establishments all over the world.
Early on, I would say within the first couple of years of this thing being out there, you had plenty of nerds and privacy advocates, typical like folks that look at electronics and don't trust them, saying this is risky. Now, I, as a person who has spent time around cards, I made a very broad assumption that there was no camera in this thing. I didn't know. You couldn't find a lot of information.
How else do you do the optical recognition?
I didn't know that they did shuffling in order. I didn't know that you could actually have them put back in order. I didn't know that it was doing card checks.
Yeah.
That was a feature that I didn't know. Once I found that out, I was like, oh, now you've got a real problem.
Now you can sort any way you want, not just by suit and
rank. Let's go back a couple years to September of 22. This is when any folks who follow poker probably saw this. There was a live stream poker event here in LA at the Hustler Live Casino. And you basically had a novice playing against a veteran. The novice had a terrible hand, had a jack 4, and called the bluff of a veteran player.
Sure.
And pretty much the entire poker community, including myself and my friends, all agreed that there is no way this person could have made this call unless they had information that the rest of us didn't have at that time. Basically, there was some cheating involved. They had to know something because you just would not have made this call.
They had to know the other player was bluffing and did not have a better hand.
And the guy that got called at the table was just like in disbelief. This should have never happened.
Yeah.
Now, several months later, Hustler Casino published a postmortem of the investigation, right? And they found, quote, no credible evidence of foul play. And they noted that if there was cheating, it was most likely some sort of secret communication between the player and a staff member in the production booth. Somebody that could see the players in real hand. Because
the cameras can see the hands.
There's no way this was anything to do with our casino or our stuff. And they had said in their statement, they had said the DeckMate shuffling machine is secure and cannot be compromised. Their position, this is Hustler's position, they ruled out any possibility that the automated card shuffling machine that was used at the table for this event could have been hacked. They just said it was not possible.
Let me describe really quickly what this thing looks like so the listener has some idea what we're talking about. It almost looks like an old school PC case.
Yeah.
It's almost the size of that. It's painted black. They get scuffed up because they're typically mounted under the table. Yep. So you're not seeing this giant machinery on the table. And you put the deck of cards in and they come back to you shuffled in 22 seconds, really fast.
Yep. You put them in, they disappear. They have a little elevator, they go down, and some magic happens and they come back out.
And the other thing that you need to know about this is that on the back of it is a USB port.
Yes. By the way, when it's installed in the table, the USB port faces the customers. It faces the players.
Right. But was there ever an explanation as to why this thing had a USB port?
I think they leave it for presumption of updating firmware and things like that.
Yeah.
Again, why you would make it an exposed USB port, not something inside, which would mitigate the problem a little bit. It would keep it so that a player just walking up couldn't, but you still have to worry about cleaning staff and the technicians that are there, the dealers. You still have all sorts of other chains of custody issues. But let's talk about how we sort of discovered that these things were, big surprise, hackable.
Programmable, let's say.
Programmable. That's the right word. You're right. Not even hackable, programmable. So there was this company called IOActive that when they heard this statement from Hustler, they went, oh boy, that sounds like a challenge to me, right? Pretty much any reasonable hacker, if you tell them something can't be done,
here we go.
The first thing they do is set their beer down. The second thing they do is figure it out. And that's typically what happens.
Sure.
So this was back in 2023. And IOActive found that with a DeckMate 2 that has this internal camera and this external USB port, they could gain access to the camera to learn the entire order of the deck in real time.
Well, of course
and they
could.
would send the results from the deck, right, via Bluetooth to a nearby phone.
Sure.
The equipment they needed to do this, they never needed to open the device. They just had to plug in effectively a Raspberry Pi Zero. So a very tiny itty bitty microcomputer into the port.
Because the Raspberry Pi Zero, at least the W, has a Bluetooth stack on it.
So that was in 2023. And Wired got a hold of this. The magazine Wired got a hold of this, found it fascinating, did a whole article on it. They actually set up a fake game with real players, not for real money. And they tried to cheat at this. The reporter who was actually playing the cards is a terrible poker player.
Self-admitted terrible poker player.
Yeah, self-admitted, terrible poker player. But they had one of the IOActive employees communicating in real time the information to them. And what he knew was, because they know the order of the cards that come out of the shuffler, they still get cut. It doesn't matter. When they cut, all you've done is change the index into where the first card is.
Right.
So as soon as the cards are dealt, as soon as you see your first card in your hole in poker, or the first card you see on the flop, you now know the order of all the cards.
The entire deck.
You know what everyone has.
Everything that got dealt.
And you know who's going to win and who's going to lose. Again, this is back in 2023. So this was public information in at least as early as 2023, if not earlier. here. And in my little bit of looking around, there are plenty of people talking online about, they say, I saw these things happen with a DeckMate 2 predating 2022, predating even the Hustler event.
Oh,
so,
sure.
You had a lot of players saying, no, that's not possible. You're, just an upset player. You're not very good. And that's why you're, but there have been a lot of folks talking about it. In 2023, we've proven now publicly that this is doable. And then, as you were alluding to earlier, last month, in October of 2025, the Department of Justice unsealed an indictment from earlier in the month that alleged 31 people, including several organized crime families, along with 2 well-known figures in the NBA. So that was the Portland Trailblazer coach, Chauncey Billups, I think you mentioned earlier.
Detroit Pistons player, a star player, a fantastic player. How did he get caught up in this?
Former player and assistant coach Damon Jones for what prosecutors describe as their roles in a vast rigging gambling conspiracy. And as it turns out, they were doing many things, but one of the things they were doing were using these hacked DeckMates. So they had people acting as, what they call them, Jeff? I think like a quarterback or something. They had they tried to throw him off the scent.
Yes, somebody at the table who looks at his cards and then folds immediately, and then they look at act like they're distracted, or they're texting their friends on their phone or whatever. They get from the computer attached to the shuffling device via Bluetooth or whatever. In the case of the NBA scandal, they were actually sending it out via IP and sending it back in, so it was actually leaving the building. They look down and they get the entire order of the deck.
You know the order of the deck. You know your position in the deck. Now you can communicate to whomever you want who's going to win, who's going to lose. So now you know how to play. Like all of the unknown of the game, based on, I've got 2 queens. Is this going to be the winning hand? All that's gone.
Yeah.
So anybody that has this information knows who is going to win with certainty. Ultimately, in the indictment, they alleged that something to the tune of like $7 million was fleeced from people that just wanted to play with NBA stars, right? The allure to come to this game was to come play with an NBA star.
It's the celebrity thing.
Yeah, right? Like, I want to be around so-and-so. And then you would just get bled for a bunch of money because they would beat you.
Yeah.
Wired, who's done the most sort of research on this, and I've read a couple of their articles, they reached out to Light & Wonder, the folks who make the DeckMate 2, and their company spokesman responded by pointing out to multiple ways the company has improved the shuffler's security. So namely, they've done a firmware update that is supposed to patch the security flaws, like requiring it to do a cryptographic check on the firmware so it can't be altered, yada, yada, yada. And I look at all of they also had an update to disable the USB port. Lovely. But I look at all that and I'm like, you just fixed all of it in software. Like that's all still reversible.
Sure.
Take the damn camera out, put it in a clear box, do some things to make this a little easier.
This is why we were saying the shuffling machine should be in a clear box on the table where everyone can see it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, and also, I mentioned this earlier, I just want to be clear on this. The charges against these 31 folks in the indictment, it's not just about cheating with a DeckMate 2. They were also using
marked cards,
visibly marked cards, and they had like electronic poker chip trays and phones that could read card markings and special glasses and contact lenses. These guys it was like, James Bond 007 sort of cheatery. But the DeckMate one was the most interesting to me because, again, people postulated this for 10 years, but now it's out in the wild being used. Not just demonstrated by Wired in, quote, the lab, but we've actually seen this out in the wild being used. I don't know yet if the folks in this indictment were using it before the Wired article came out. My hunch is certainly the Wired article could have been the impetus for like, oh, hey, we can hack these things, right? Let's go find them. Find a couple nerds that can help us figure out firmware for this, and away we go.
Anytime you want to make a piece of machinery like this and you want us to trust that it's not completely hackable, take a few of them to DEF CON and let the teams at DEF CON just go to work on these things. And if they can't break it, you're probably fine.
Yeah, or they just haven't told you.
Well, that could happen too.
You could just set your watch by how quick until these things are broken, but sure.
This is the crew who will voluntarily do your dirty work and figure out where your flaws are.
They'll probably pay you for the honor to do it and break it first. Yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, my thing is, I think any shuffler with a camera inside
bad idea
is going to put you at severe risk of cheating. That's just not a great idea. And generally speaking, I would say when you're gambling, right, when you're playing cards, you're already putting a lot of trust in the house that they're going to pay you, right? You give them real money and they give you fake little chips. You're putting trust that they're going to convert those chips back into money. So you're already putting some trust into them. I look at it and I just go, well, what's your brand value, right? I'm pretty confident that the Sands isn't going to rip me off for a couple $100 or even, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars because their license is so valuable.
I was going to say their gaming license is at stake.
They just wouldn't do it, right? Like they have too much to risk. But if you're at some local dimly lit house game, at some point they could just rug pull that thing and be like, yeah, no, sorry, we're keeping the money.
Sure.
So trust is a really important part of this. And to me, it's not just trusting that the house didn't cheat. It's trusting that the house had sort of control over the device, right? Chain of custody.
Yeah.
Because you could have someone that's not the house, but associate, again, the folks that are cleaning the tables, right? Or setting them up or bringing the chairs in.
Sure.
Any of those people could have cheated. And there have been some documented cases of folks that seem to be not related to the house performing these sort of firmware updates to get data out of these machines. So I just think trust is a really important part. Now, there is a relatively easy mitigation strategy especially for these DeckMate 2s, which is if
there's any reason to question the DeckMate.
Yeah. If you're questioning the output of these DeckMate 2s or any automatic shuffler,
which you should,
one of the simplest things you can do to help mitigate that risk is have the human dealer riffle them.
Shuffle the cards.
Just two times is enough, preferably 3 or 4, but just 2 times is enough so that now I don't know the order of every single card in the deck.
Right.
And I look at this and I go, man, I understand why you want to, less repetitive stress on the dealer. You want to turn tables faster. Players want to play faster. But I think we can all survive 2 or 3 riffles, which will take like 4 seconds.
Yeah, no time at all.
I mean, someone that's a professional can do this very quickly. And then you've got much better odds of them not cheating, right? I trust the dealer a lot more than I do the machine that some faceless person could have manipulated.
Well, now everybody who listens, you all know how to cheat at cards. I'm glad to have corrupted all of you.
Man, I am so glad that these DeckMates, like if you want to buy one online at the click of a button, you're going to spend 15-ish grand. Mm-hmm. I've seen them used for sort of the $3,000 to $4,000 range.
Oh, I see $12,500 for a DeckMate too.
I so badly want to get one because here's the thing, right? What they've done so far is told you the order, which is really cool, right? They're communicating the order. But remember, these things can put the deck back into order. They can put it back into the order that you want. So when you're done with the cards, you can count them and make sure no cards escape. You put them back in the box.
There's not 2 ace of spades and no 2 of diamonds.
Yeah, and get rid of them. That means I can put them into any order. And if you remember earlier, I was telling you about Ben Jaffe, who figured out that there are certain orders where you can guarantee what person wins.
Sure, you want to do that, don't you?
Now, I'm sure it's going to take more than 22 seconds of shuffle time, but man, I love the idea of being able to say, hey, I want the person at seat 4 to win, and it being able to just hand it out. Like even just as a parlor trick, not using to steal money from people.
Sure.
I think this would be fascinating. So I'm so glad these things are just expensive enough to make me go, no, I don't want to go spend 50 hours of my life and $5,000 making this thing. What might be cheaper is for one of our listeners to just send me a DeckMate 2 that they're sitting on, and I'll go ahead and spring for the Raspberry Pi, and we'll figure out how to make this thing spit out magic decks. I mean, could you imagine? I just love the idea of being able to say, I've made a deck for this number of people, that seat's always going to win, no matter where the cut is.
Sure.
I think so many people would just not believe it. They would just be like, no, let me cut it. I'm so glad that is just out of the reasonable reach for me, because it has now saved me tens, if not hundreds of hours of my life.
All right, speaking of tens of thousands of hours of our lives, we have to get out of here. But quickly before we do, have you seen or read anything good this last week?
Well, look, not this past week, but given the theme of the show.
Oh, you're taking the theme of the show for your recommendation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's taken me 160 episodes to learn from you, but
somebody showed up and did homework.
Well, no, I wouldn't say I did homework. I just had to reach into the cobwebs of my brain. And I was like, okay, what are my favorite gambling movies?
Yeah, sure.
And I was like, well, Casino or Rounders. Those are both great examples, right?
Yeah.
But then I was like, how about 2001's Ocean's 11? Because Ocean's 11,
a delightful movie,
is a fantastic film. So for those that don't remember, Danny Ocean is the lead character in the film. It's, of course, George Clooney. He's a man of action. Less than 24 hours into his parole from a New Jersey penitentiary, he is out rolling his next plan. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't hurt anybody. He doesn't want to steal from anyone who doesn't deserve it, quote unquote, which I love. And he's going to, play the game like not to lose and play for big stakes. Absolutely amazing. It's so much fun. Rockstar cast, George Clooney, Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, Don Cheadle, Andy Garcia, Carl Reiner, who I had forgotten about. And I was like, oh yeah, Carl Reiner's in that film too.
He's so good in it.
He's so good in it. And Julia Roberts, I mean, everyone is amazing. So my recommendation this week is Ocean's 11, available on VHS and Laserdisc at a Blockbuster near you. How about you?
Listen, my recommendation is even older than that.
Oh boy.
And it is also a gambling movie.
Okay.
1973's The Sting, the definitive con artist caper.
Yeah.
Reenacting legends Paul Newman and Robert Redford for an Oscar-winning masterpiece set in the dazzling, deceptive world of 1930s Chicago. Redford plays Johnny Hooker, a small-time grifter seeking vengeance after his mentor is killed by a ruthless mob boss, Doyle Lonigan, who's played by Robert Shaw brilliantly. He teams up with the legendary Henry Gondorf, played by Paul Newman, a master of the big con for a spectacular high-stakes revenge scheme designed to separate Lonigan from a massive sum of cash. Steeped in period detail, jazzy ragtime music, it's what popularized Scott Joplin's The Entertainer. And sharp suits, The Sting is a masterclass in misdirection, leading up to one of cinema's most famous and perfectly executed surprise endings. The Sting, available for rent on YouTube Movies and TV now.
So once again, even though I pull Ocean's 11 out, which is a great film, The Sting is better.
Yeah,
The Sting is
I
better.
Think you're neck and neck there.
I don't know. I do love Henry Gondorf, though. His dressing, the Gondorf's own dressing is really good.
Isn't this episode long enough? That is the episode.
Thank you for joining us for all this nonsense. Truly terrible podcast from our awful company. Visit on the web at nonsense.productions. I'm Cutable.
I'm Jeff Parker.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like at Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, AntennaPod, iHeartRadio, Spotify, my favorite Overcast, wherever you may get your podcasts from.
Sounds like you're losing your voice. Nonsense uses the Internet Archive, a nonprofit digital library offering free universal access to digitized collections of books, movies, software, music, websites, and more. Through initiatives like the Wayback Machine, users can explore snapshots of over 866 billion web pages, providing invaluable insight into the evolution of the internet and human knowledge itself. The Internet Archive, if you haven't already, check it out.
We'll be here every Tuesday and Thursday mornings for more nonsense.
After our Thanksgiving break.
Oh, I'll be fatter. Join us then.
When my child was younger, I gambled a lot by getting up to go to the bathroom in the night in the dark and gambling whether or not there'd be Lego on the floor in my path.
Oh, yeah.
That's the parents' standard gamble.
Yeah. If Dante were alive today, the 9th inner ring of hell would just be covered in Legos. That's what it would be. He'd be like, oh, yeah, it was ice. But now if you go inside the ice, it's just Legos. And you walk on
even
those.
Worse.
Yeah, it's
Lego.
even worse.
Good luck.
Yeah. Everyone's like, no, just leave me in the ice. Please, just leave me in the ice. I don't want to go to the Legos.